All right, I have my live button, which means hopefully it is streaming to YouTube, and all of you amazing parents and families in our incoming new student class this year are watching. Oh, look, my little number went up. 77 of you so far. Please say hello in the chat so I know that you're definitely there and not figures of my imagination. But good evening. Welcome to our third caffeine chat for this summer 2021 season, I guess, if you will. Hello and welcome back to all of you who joined the first two or watched us, the recordings, and a special hello to everybody who's joining us who might be here for the first time tonight. My name is Lindsay Barnt. I am the Director of Student Transitions at the College of New Jersey, and I have a super special guest with me tonight. He is one of my favorite people across campus, although truth be told, I think I say that every week about the people that I have on, but I really mean it about Frank. Frank Cooper, who's our Executive Director in the Office of Records and Registration. Say hello to everybody, Frank.
Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? First of all, just let me congratulate all the moms and dads out there, because I know this has been a major challenge the last couple of years. I have two twin boys who are rising seniors in high school, so I feel your pain, but I also can feel your enjoyment about your students and the choices they're making. And to all you Lions out there, congratulations on your choice of becoming a Lion. So we're looking forward to having you here in the fall, and it's all going to be good things. Turning the corner here, it's going to be good things moving forward. So congratulations, and we'll go from there.
Great. So I will share. Oh, see, it was doing that thing again. You may have to mute yourself. So I will share my my mug of the week, because this is a caffeine chat, as I always like to say. And I told the group early on, last summer when these started, I had a big cup of normally it was regular, sometimes it was decaf. And now if I have a cup of tea or even decaf tea at like 8 o'clock at night, I will be up until 2 a.m. So I actually snuck ice cream into this mug tonight, but I'm sharing with you all the mug. And it's one that my sister got me. I have two younger sisters. I'm the oldest of three. And it's just a little picture of the three of us. And it says big sis, middle sis, and little sis. So it's like my sister's mug. And I had some cookies and cream, ice cream in there tonight. So that was the mug for this evening. Sorry, there's no official caffeine, but hopefully you have your cup and you can settle in. We have a lot to talk about tonight. I teased this in the email announcement yesterday to sign up. We have a lot of interesting information that it's good information I think you're going to find very interesting tonight, because the Office of Records and Registration is almost like the spine of a TC&J experience, right? So much goes through them. They are kind of just this kind of foundational core to everything that your student's going to do in terms of records and transcripts and declaring majors and minors and graduating and getting all those kind of good things. And Frank will talk a little bit more, but we have a jam-packed agenda for you tonight. So we're going to start off and then a couple things. So while Frank and I chat, no presentation or PowerPoint tonight. Just some good old-fashioned back and forth, but I will be monitoring the chat. So if you do have questions that are specific to Frank, feel free to put them in there. All the ones that were submitted ahead of time, I read through and I picked out the ones that are going to be applicable for our conversation tonight. There's a whole bunch about other things that are coming down the pike. So at the end, I'm going to answer a few of the more common ones. I think bills are really the big thing right now that people have questions about. So if you put a question in the chat that's not really applicable to kind of the content that we're covering tonight, just sit tight and we'll address it either at the end or I'll give you a heads up, because we have more special guests coming in the weeks to come who are experts in that particular area. So Frank, why don't we start off with you giving us a little bit of an overview about who the Office of Records and Registration is and what they do for our students on campus.
All right, thanks, Linz. Basically, I mean, Lindsay hit on the nail on the head here. We're kind of like, I call it the central nervous system of the college as far as from an academic standpoint. Everything kind of runs through us. Basically, the title itself kind of says who we are: records and registration, which we would translate as enrollment. But we're in charge of the integrity of the academic record, and that is the academic transcript. We have a whole transcript area. And students can request transcripts through us, and we're very proactive with that. About 50% of the students will send it electronically, which we like, and another 50% are still doing the old paper transcript, which we do. And then the enrollment piece, and I know the students have been involved in some of that, and we'll get into that in more detail as far as enrollments. Those are the big areas of the college, and we have in my group, I have what we call academic evaluators, and they're kind of part of the advisement team. They actually do the evaluation of your credits from either from college or from advanced standing that you've taken, AP credits and so forth. And that's a big piece of what we do. They support the advisement team. And I just want to, I think going forward, right now, your advisors haven't been assigned to you on what we call PAWS. That's our academic web service group, was where all our academic records are. And once that happens, the advisor will be assigned to you. Right now, you'll be meeting probably mostly with your chairs, but on that PAWS thing, you will have an academic evaluator. Their name is on there, and also their contact information. They work best through email, so any questions you have as far as that program is concerned, that would be the place to go. So that's essentially the overview of the office. So we set up the college schedule each year. We set up the class schedules, and then we go from there. So.
Okay, awesome. So before we kind of dive in, and I decided to organize us a bit chronologically tonight so that we can kind of talk about where the students have been, where they're going at orientation or did go at orientation for our transfer families, and then what the start of the semester is going to look like into that first semester. But before we get started, I thought maybe it would be helpful to do a few things. One, talk a little bit about, or actually just two things. One, talk about kind of this concept of credits versus course units, and just give a kind of a broader overview of how we're structured, and we do things a little bit differently versus other institutions if they have older siblings or other experiences there. And then this whole concept of coaching versus doing. So I'll turn it over to you for those two things, and then we'll talk about pre-registration.
All right. Well, we'll start with the credit, and then I'll get into the pep talk. Is that what you want me to do? We're a little bit unique at the College of New Jersey in the sense that we function on what they call a course unit system. And that becomes a little confusing for transfer credits and the like. But basically, every course is what we would consider as one course unit. And students normally, on a normal load, would take 4 course units during the semester. They're required to have 32 to graduate. So 4 times 8 semesters would be 32. If I did my math right, that should add up. And engineering is a little different. Engineering students need to complete 39 course units for their degree, and they would basically take 5 course units a semester, and I guess they get 1 semester where they don't need to take a full load. So that's the course unit system. That's a little bit different, and basically our course unit is equal to 4, or our course unit is equal to 4 credit hours. And what happens with most schools, they're on a 3 credit hour system. And the transfer credits, people think they lose credits. They really don't. They actually gain some flexibility. When a student transfers a credit from a institution that has credit hours, we would basically accept credit for the course, but you would need to pick up that extra quarter unit as far as a graduation requirement. For example, if you took Psych 101 at Ocean County Community College, we would give you credit for Psych 101 at the College of New Jersey. We would transfer that in at 0.75 units. You would get the requirement for the course, and you would need to pick up an extra course. So as more transfer credits come in, you actually get to pick up more free electives to meet the graduation requirements. And that's a great way to start, Liz, because we just confused the heck out of all of them. But that's why you have the academic values are still going to be very valuable to you. And this will all come out in orientation, and also in your first seminar or in your orientation course during the year, which we'll get into. So that's basically it. Lindsay wanted me to give you a little bit of, I guess, more or less to the parents, talking about roles and responsibilities. It's actually, this is kind of bad. I'm showing my age here. 39 years ago next month, I arrived on the campus at the then Trenton State College. And I came in as a graduate student. And my role there was student first, but I also got this grad assistantship being a basketball coach. So I coached 7 years of men's basketball and 4 years of women's basketball when I was a youngster back in the 80s. So this is where the the role is actually mom and dad. It's kind of that of a coach. Your job is to encourage, to inspire, to kick them in the pants once in a while, because we know that's sometimes necessary. But your job's not to do. The job to do is the students. It's their job to do, and it's in truth tonight. We'll point out some important things as a mom and dad, as far as a coaching point of view, that is important to pay attention to, so that you can help your son or daughter, navigate their way through the college. And quite honestly, for the most part, they've done very well as far as their first homework assignment. We asked them to fill out their preference sheet. We call it the first semester worksheet, and 98% of the students filled it out. I hope 98% of the students fill it out. And mom and dad, if you fill that out for them, then your student's going to be taking courses that you like as opposed to what they like, and that's probably not a good start. But I have faith that the students did this work, and that kind of leads us into our orientation program and so forth. You want me to keep going, Lindsay, as far as how we do this?
No, but I've known you for how long now? I've been at TCNJ. It'll be 10 years in November, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together. But I will be 39 next month. My birthday's
Wow.
in the beginning of August.
Really
So I don't know if that
my
makes you feel better or worse, but I put that together. I was like, oh gosh.
So you're saying you could be my daughter? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I could if you got started very early. No, that's great. That was awesome. And I just really wanted to kind of to blanket that overview. And I think each year it gets a little bit better. I find that more students are more comfortable emailing me, my office, with questions, and we really just want to kind of empower them to take ownership of the process, because a lot is going to change now and a lot's going to come down the pike that's very different from high school. Obviously my transfer families, I'm sure you're like, yeah, we got this, we're good. So you can sit over there and pipe in on the chat if you want to give some advice. But yeah, I think that's great. And then again, just to kind of reiterate, so really full-time is technically 3 classes here at the college, 3 course units, because that would be 12 credits. But to graduate when we want you to, which is on time for us, whether that's 4 years for incoming first year and provisional students, whether that's 2 or 3 for our transfers, you're really looking at taking 4 classes a semester and 4 course units, so 16 credits. And I think the other thing, just as a regular, as a reminder, and I've been saying this, I feel, in every chat, but I just kind of want to reiterate this before we get into some of the weeds of things. The advisors are not assigned until the first week of class. I did get a handful of questions for when, where's my student's advisor to reach out with questions over the summer. They don't have them yet. And the reason is that we're a faculty-based advising model, right? So our faculty directly advise students, which is awesome. But our faculty are 10-month employees. And which months are they not working? July and August. So not here to answer your questions. So it's really the department chair, the programs assistant, the program assistants in the departments, pretty much everybody on Frank's staff, who are all hands on deck to support the new students that are coming in. And it is a beautiful song and dance, even though this year we have a little bit of a kink in that with the AP scores, and we'll address that in a couple of minutes. But it really is such a system and just a beautiful kind of series of overlapping things, because we are responsible for getting, this year, I think it's like 1,850 new students with schedules, right? It is a huge undertaking, and everybody has done such a great job so far. And what I thought we could do next is really kind of give them an overview of what has happened so far with respects to scheduling. That's really kind of my focus. And then talk a little bit about what they can expect for orientation for our first year families, understanding that our transfer students have already gone through this and should be mostly good to go. So let's talk a little bit about pre-registration. So one of the biggest things that started in May for these students was getting placement testing done, right? So placement testing, there were kind of these 2 things going on. We did, we required them to do the testing. It was a very busy time of year with our transfer students finishing up coursework at their previous institutions for the semester. Our first years were sitting for AP exams and other kind of high school wrap-up things. But we were in the process of having placement exams done for both 3 things: calculus, second language, and the writing piece. So is there anything that you want to talk about there? I know we wanted to address some things with the writing. Why don't we talk about this, and then we'll kind of jump into what the departments were doing with their major requirements.
Okay. Yeah, right. Basically, like the students, when they filled out their first semester worksheet, they actually picked, I believe, 6 choices for what we call the the first semester writing class, and then there's also the first semester seminar. And students will have either one of those in their first semester. That's one of the course units students will have. Now, we just, if you're monitoring your pause account, you probably saw a big, that the placement being made these last couple days. So we loaded into the system. All the students that were required to take the writing course were loaded into the system, provided you took the placement test and you did your homework there. And then other students were placed into what we call the first seminar class. And so you should have gotten one of the two offerings. Writing placement tends to take priority to be put in the writing course. It's important to us because the first semester seminar class is a writing intensive class. So it's really important that you have the writing background first. So students that placed into the writing class were put into that. Now, part of it is we do have some sections where we had probably more people required to take writing this year than we anticipated. So some students that may need writing may have the seminar class, and that'll be explained to you. Nita Ringer will be sending out an email about that, so you'll get information about the placement and how that happened. But right now, you should have seen your bump in your schedule. And right now, about 80% of the students would have their 4 course units in their schedule. So it's looking pretty good. Now, whether it's the perfect, did I not get an 8 o'clock in the morning class? Do I have a number of night classes? Those are things that we'll adjust during orientation. When you meet with your department chair and your academic advisors, we'll make adjustments if necessary. We don't encourage you to go and make adjustments on your own until you talk to an advisor, because it's important. The way we did this, the departments actually registered all the students for the required courses. So if you're required to take a course in a major, obviously psych majors have to take Psych 101. If you're a biology major, you're taking a biology course and a chemistry course. Business majors are taking hopefully their economics and their math and the like. So whatever the required courses were for the major the first semester, your academic departments actually registered students for that. Where the preferences came in were within the writing and the first seminar. And we're also in the process, students also had a preference for their writing liberal learning course. So if you had room in your schedule to take a liberal learning course, we're kind of going through that now. So we're looking at what your preference is. Like if you said, well, I really prefer English over math, we're going to put you in an English class. If you prefer history over psych, we'll put you in a history class. So that's kind of the decisions we made based on the courses that you put in your preference sheet. So the goal of this is that you have 4 course units, 5 if you're an engineer, but basically 4 course units, and that you have your required courses, and then that you would also have what your preferences were when you in your worksheet. So that's kind of what we've been doing for the last month and a half, and that's all starting to bear fruit now. You'll start seeing that, and it'll get cleaner and cleaner as we get up to orientation, and then you'll be able to make adjustments at that point. So how's that, Linz?
That's great. Yeah. So just to reiterate a few things on that. So yeah, the writing, and I want to say this because I've gotten a handful of emails, and I know that Nina and the Writing Center did as well. Got a handful who reached out, who were placed into the writing program and really almost looked at it negatively, right? That it was a kind of a poor reflection on their academic performance, and they were straight A students and they didn't understand. I really cannot stress how important, and I can speak to this very much candidly as a graduate student who is graduating in 19 days, not that I'm counting on the countdown. Writing is so important to your success as a TCNJ student as you get going. And it is not any type of negative mark on you. You are not behind a semester if you got placed into writing 102 instead of the first year seminar first. It was actually most of the students, this incoming first year students, and we're really talking to those first year students at the moment, most of them were actually tested into writing at 102 instead of the first year seminar. All right, so you're in good company. Don't look at it as a negative. The deal with the first year seminar is that it doesn't teach you writing at the same time. So writing is a prerequisite for that course, and our students who end up in that writing course end up doing significantly better overall in their 4 years at TCNJ as a result of taking that class. I did not know how to write until I got to college. I took a very similar course my first semester. Really cannot stress enough how vital that is. So please don't look at that negatively if your student was looking at that negatively, because I know I got a handful of inquiries about that. And I was like, no, it's great. Like you're where you're supposed to be. So, and like Frank mentioned, so we were taking placement testing results. You were filling, my first year students were filling out the worksheet. My transfer students, you were putting courses into your shopping cart based on classes that you had already taken at your previous institution. And then what the academic departments did overlapping is they said, okay, well, we know every psych major coming in takes intro to psych. We know that every nursing major is going to have, anatomy and physiology, whatever the case may be. And I'm pseudo making those up because I don't get into the particulars. So we want to get your core classes in there, right? Then we know every incoming first year student is taking either writing or their seminar. And that's what Frank's area did, I think Friday, right? We were just talking like the very end of last week, right? So as he mentioned, over 80% of the students now should have a full schedule. Those 20%, we're going to be finishing those up as the weeks go on. And we're going to talk a little bit at orientation about the changes to the AP schedule this year and how we're kind of mitigating that in terms of changes to schedules as a result of sitting for the AP. The other thing I wanted to talk about now would be a good time, I think, is a little bit about these new student requirements. So every time they go into pause, or I got this email, I already had a comment in here tonight, this isn't a class they signed up for. It looks like they're taking 8 classes instead of 4 classes. Well, there are a set of classes that all of our new students, period, first years, provisionals, transfers, have to take. They are not classes in the sense of they meet 4 hours a week and there is a professor lecturing, there will be exams, there will be a final grade at the end, but these are more new student requirements that we have all of our incoming students complete, right? Frank, do you want to, so one of those, and you can raise your hand if this applied to you, is IDS 102. So Frank, do you want to give them a quick rundown of why don't we do IDS 102, and you can talk a little bit about the 099 classes.
Okay. The IDS 102 and parents, this is going to be one of your coaching points for parents, but the IDS 102 is an information proficiency course. It's an online module, so you won't see it on your schedule as meeting on Monday, Tuesdays, or Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday in some room. It's an online module, and students go in and take the module. It teaches them how to use the library, teach them how to use information, how to document your sources and so forth. So it's a very valuable class, but it is a module, and this is a coaching point to parents. What I always say, the first couple weeks, they're going to go through a great, first of all, Welcome Week program. Plug for the Welcome Week. It's one of the best programs going. And in the beginning of the school, they're making, they're making a lot of adjustments. They're meeting a lot of new friends. They're having fun. They're getting organized. They're getting and so forth. But the writing 102, like I said, is a modular. It can be done piecemeal. Like if they did one module a week, they'd be in good shape. But there's something you do not want to delay, because one, it's going to help you in the class as far as taking the writing 102, and two, you don't want to get to midterms and still have this hanging over your head because now you say, oh man, I got to get this writing 102 done, and I got midterms coming up I need to study for. So the first 3 weeks is school, do all the fun stuff and get acclimated and transition. But that third week, you want to hit this and get it done. And it's valuable for the information it's giving. But plus, you also want to make sure that you're not going to procrastinate where now it's going to affect your midterms and everything else. So that's, mom and dad, that's a coaching point. Third week in the semester, give them a call and say, hey, have you completed IDS 102 yet? The other course is is 099 classes. And the 099 classes is basically departmental specific, where each department has the 099 class, and it's really an extensive orientation program. It's run by most of the assistant deans and the program assistants within the school. It's an advising type of course. They will go through the basics. They will continue advisement. One of the good things that happens about that is that they'll get into what's called the academic requirements report, which we'll talk about a little bit. But in PAWS, students can run it's called My Requirements in PAWS, and it will show them every semester exactly what courses they've taken and completed and got credit for, and how it fits into their degree program. So it's a great tool, and there's no excuse for not graduating on time, because every semester you can know exactly where you are. And these are the types of things, these advising things, that they will go through in the IDS 099 class. So it's really valuable in that sense. And I'm sure Lindsay's gonna add about the transition of that. So
yeah, the 099. So the 099s are super helpful. And I think the other thing too, I always like to stress, is that it might not be 099. That might not be the exact number, right? My engineering school, they like to do it. So if you're an engineer and you are enrolled in, engineering 095, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? It also varies a lot by school. So some schools will do a school-wide 099 course, while other schools will do department 099s. But the key here is that you have a lot of questions about things like, well, for example, lab safety, right? They've also, the science folks have all sorts of different information for how they're handling, classes that take place in laboratories. When you want to start thinking about, and there've already been a host of questions on here about, when do I declare my minor? Or how do I get a second major? How do I declare if I'm pre-med? Those are the types of questions that your student is going to be able to ask in the 099, right? This is more of the, hey, you've got 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, because yes, the transfer students have an 099 as well. Here's kind of some of the bigger picture stuff, because right now in the middle of July, we have a whole heck of a lot of other things to worry about than when you're declaring a minor, right? I know that that's important to many people, but that's where your department is going to take, or your school is going to take over the lead with giving you information about getting you on track to be able to do that process. If you want to study abroad, right? Where does that fit in? What's the best semester to go abroad if I know I want to make that an experience for me? Those are the types of planning things that are going to take place in the 099 courses. So just know, if you're thinking bigger picture about how all these pieces are going to come together to craft this unique undergraduate experience, which is hopefully the reason that you chose TCNJ in the first place, right? You're going to have an opportunity to do that in due time. It's just something that we tackle in the fall semester. It's some nuts and bolts stuff. It's also getting you used to, what is a dean? Like, what does the dean do versus an assistant dean or an associate dean? Or what's the role of the department chair, right? Program assistants. Who do I go to with questions about X? So some of it's very nuts and bolts, just to how to manage and navigate being a student in that school or that department. And then again, with the bigger 4-year picture types of things as well. Also, the 099s, and they do vary, right? So there's no standardization, but I know that many will bring in the Career Center, right, to start having that conversation about, when's too early to meet with us. The answer is it's never too early. You should already be in there, right? Well, joking aside, not really. So, they bring in a lot of external support services from across campus to help facilitate conversations and dialogue with the students as well. So it's a really great course, but again, it's going to kind of pop up on your schedule and you're going to think, well, what's this? Don't panic. You're not taking 8 classes. Your 099 or your 095 will be on there for your department or your school. IDS 102, again, series of online modules. You just have to complete them. Will be on there. All of our students have to do academic integrity. That's not a separate one, but that will be in your online orientation, which is still in Canvas right now. And then the other one, just as a kind of a teaser, and this is nothing, where we'll give you a little bit of a warning on this as well. We have, for all of our incoming first-year students and our provisional students, we have another course called IDS 103. So we require all of our first-year students to have a community-engaged learning experience. And it's almost kind of like a micro course, right? So it's 2 weeks. You meet, I think, 3 times, and you do 1 in-person or virtual community service project, and then you write a paper and you're done, right? But we really feel very strongly about setting a foundation and expectation for giving back to the communities in which we live and which we serve. So that 2-week micro course doesn't get, the students will the Bonner Center communicates directly with the students, and then they select a time based on kind of what their schedule looks like for the rest of the semester. About half the first year students will do IDS 103, that community engaged learning piece in the fall, and half will do it in the spring. So you're going to get some more information about that there. But I think the general rule of thumb is that if you're looking at your schedule and you had a thought of what should be on there, and then it's kind of like looking weird, take a deep breath. It's not weird, right? Your academic departments at orientation are going to walk you through, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, at orientation, what they're going to walk you through in terms of the classes you should be taking for your major. But then just know that there's these other new student requirements that you're going to complete as well, and they're kind of a one and done situation. All right. Frank, let me go back and make sure we didn't miss anything so far. Before we wrap up and we talk about orientation, a quick thing about the writing placement. So it reopens tomorrow. So if you did not take the writing placement exam, and there's a couple of you out there, not too many, but a couple of you, it opens tomorrow. You will get an email from Nina in the Writing Center, and you have until the 26th. Please do that ASAP. We can't help you, and we can't do anything to getting that schedule beautiful and done until you take the writing placement. If you have had any other issues taking other placement exams, if you were enrolled late and you didn't realize that you had to take one, please email Student Transitions. I will put it in the chat, and we'll get you hooked up with who you need to be able to take those exams, okay? I also did get a question, can you retake the writing placement? And the answer for that is unfortunately no. There was a very, very tight deadline, and it actually took tons of people across campus and our kind of faculty and staff who reviewed and read those essays, that we don't have the capacity or the time to open that up for students to retake it again. So we're not giving that as an option. But if you didn't take it at all, we need you to get it in and to get that done, and it starts tomorrow. Okay, I think that was it for our kind of pre-registration stuff. Now let's move into what they can expect at orientation. So a little bit of a chair overview. Frank, if you want to talk a little bit about that. They're going to cover the first semester sequence, and then we can talk a little bit about AP scores and when we expect it.
Okay. At orientation is really your chance you're actually going to be meeting with your department chair, and they will go through your first semester courses and outline as far as go through making sure that you have the appropriate coursework and that you're in the right class sequence, and they'll go through and they'll explain that to you. They'll explain the whole first semester selection and the classes you have, and then how that fits into your overall curriculum for the 4 years. And that will happen during the academic advisement session. And if deemed appropriate, the advisors may adjust your schedule and so forth. My team kind of supports that and so forth. Our goal, though, is basically that for the most part, you probably should have a really good schedule. Now, we're always going to be making tweaks in that. And part of that's going to be things that are happening now that in not normal year is the AP scores. Historically, we get those AP scores the first week of July. That didn't happen this year because of COVID. There's still a college board, and college board hasn't set them. Unfortunately, we won't get the AP scores until after orientation. So in that sense, there's going to be a lot of adjustments that will still have to be made based on the AP scores. And that will, once those scores are in, your academic departments will start making those adjustments. And then, a lot of them have conversations with you probably again about, do you want to accept the AP score or not? Quite honestly, in our heavily math analytical type courses, a lot of students will opt to take our calculus course as opposed to get credit for that. And that's a personal choice. You have the opportunity to make that choice. And that really should be done with talking to your advisor and the like. We have historically, we have about 300 AP scores, or students that have AP scores. So it's a big percentage of our class. So schedule adjustments this year may not be finalized at orientation. Our goal is to have them finalized, but there could be adjustments with that. The other thing is what we call advanced standing, and that's for all you students that took college level courses in high school. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of you. So if you've taken a college level course, i.e. a dual enrollment program through your community college or a dual enrollment program through some 4-year institution, what you need to do is have those transcripts sent to our office, the Office of Records and Registration. You can actually, if you wanted to, you can put attention, if you haven't done so already, attention Katie Caperna. That's Caperna, Katie Caperna. She handles all the data entry for that. But once those transcripts come into our office, we will enter them into the system, and then they'll be given to your academic evaluator, and they actually will post them to your transcripts. So if you've had those types of credits and you don't see them posted to your transcripts by the end of orientation, you definitely want to reach out to us and contact us about that. If you haven't sent those transcripts yet, you should do so. And that's a key thing as far as those two things, as far as AP and advanced placement.
Awesome. Yep, that's great. So a little bit different this year, but the goal is for students who reached out who were like, okay, what about my AP scores? Don't panic. The goal is that your department chair at orientation is going to go, hey, here's why you enrolled into X, Y, and Z. Here's what we want you to do or what you need to consider and let us know about when the AP scores come in. And then it's an all hands on deck situation. We're going to get them after orientation. Obviously not ideal. We really love to have orientation be, you know what, you're good to go. Yep, see you later. Go order your textbooks. Go do X, Y, and Z. Your bills are coming out next week, right? Not going to 100% be the case this year, but that's not necessarily, we're going to make do. We're going to have some more changes that are kind of coming up as a result of the fact that we're getting the APs a little bit later, and we're going to make it, it'll be magic. It'll be beautiful. You're going to have a great schedule when all is said and done here, and you'll be good to go. So your department chair, though, is going to provide a lot more information. So all these questions that are coming up, I cannot stress this enough. Go to the virtual session, right? There is no RSVP required for the virtual orientation sessions that are happening next week, because the expectation is that, not this week coming up, 19th to the 22nd. And the expectation is that they're going to go, right? No matter where you are, logging on to these sessions are going to be really important. Your department chairs are the experts. Frank and I, we are generalists. We know a lot of general information across all 7 academic schools and all 50 majors. Frank knows way more about that than I do. But really, your department chair is the person who in the nitty gritty can really fine tune and answer some of those questions. So going to that virtual orientation session is going to be really important for your student to do that. If they can't make it, obviously things come up. Even if you're on vacation, maybe you're having internet problems, or you're out of the country and you don't have internet at all, for whatever the reason may be. Although that probably seems a little unlikely this year, but there's people who are traveling. Just let your department know, right? So all the contact information for the departments and the schools is in your online orientation. Give them a heads up. Our transfer students just went through this a few weeks ago with their schedules. And I just give them the heads up, like, hey, I'm not going to be there. Is there any way that we can connect either before or after via email, on the phone, just so I can get some of my questions answered if you do have questions about that schedule. All right. Frank, I will throw you a question that we had in the group that was submitted ahead of time so that you can talk a little bit about this. The parent said, I'm concerned that my son has 3 night classes on his schedule. How will he participate in clubs? Why does he have so many night classes?
Okay, couple things. One, I agree that a student probably shouldn't have 3 night classes. Some of that, if they do, we will try to make those adjustments. Some of that happens though because of program specific, i.e., a lot of science labs could be at night, and also some of our art studios and so forth could be at night. The load when we loaded the FS or the first semester seminar classes, it's easy to put those into night classes, but basically most students, a traditional schedule would be 3 classes during the day and 1 at night, and students tend to like that because meeting 1 night a week kind of frees them up and so forth. So that's a normal schedule for us. If you've got 3, that I agree, it's way too many, and those are the ones that we should be making adjustments to. And my staff will be reviewing those. Once we get past this week, our goal is to get everything loaded as far as the writing and the first seminar. We'll be looking at those schedules to make sure that that they're balanced. We're trying to balance them as much as possible. Does that guarantee you're not going to have an 8 a.m. class? No, it doesn't. And you can blame me for those. If you have an 8 a.m. class, you can blame me, but we'll try to make those adjustments accordingly. Some of it is curriculum, and some of it is because we did this electronic load. We may have overloaded some classes in the evening, which we'll try to correct.
Yeah, I think another thing that comes up too, more so for my transfer students, but potentially this year, maybe if we have more first years who are living at home and commuting, you may have a preference for maybe having condensing classes to a certain number of days, and maybe that's not what it's looking like right now. That would be another opportunity to talk to your department chair. Now, if you go to your department chair, like, well, I'm not really a morning person, so like this 8 a.m. isn't going to work out for me. Like that's probably going to be like tough, right? I was a meteorology major undergrad. I had 8 a.m.s 7 out of 8 semesters. I rose with the sun because I was studying, among other things, the sun. So your student won't have it that bad, but that's not going to be a valid excuse. But for the students who genuinely, 3 classes at night, who have, a potential challenge with commuting, those are the types of situations that we're going to try to mitigate at orientation as well. So really brief overview, because somebody had a quick question. The virtual sessions are not one-on-one. They are group advisement. So if your student is an incoming nursing major, they are going to be in a virtual session with all of the nursing majors that are coming into TCNJ for that particular semester. And again, this is first years and provisionals only, because my transfer students did their virtual sessions a few weeks ago. Okay, so it was a group advisement session, but obviously plenty of opportunity to ask questions. You're gonna get a nice welcome from the department chair, and et cetera, et cetera. Second part of the day, and this goes to everybody, first years, provisionals, and transfer students. If you are signed up to attend our optional on-campus program, oh my gosh, yay! I'm so excited to meet you. I'm so excited to have an in-person event come back. That will be the week of the 19th through the 22nd. So if you're already RSVP'd, great. We're really looking forward to having you. Again, it's 1 to 4:30. A couple quick things on that. One, I have gotten several emails about when you're going to get your confirmation email. It will be next week. All right, so we're going to give you an email that has information about our health and safety protocols and what our expectations are. We're going to do health checks at the start of the day, and just kind of our requirements for masks and all that kind of good stuff to keep us safe. We are going to include parking instructions and information on there, and the finalized schedule. So bear with me. It might be probably Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, midweek, but you will get an email with all those details. You are not going to get the Zoom links for your virtual sessions, all right, this week. We had some Zoom bombing situations last year that were really inappropriate and caused a whole headache. So what I typically do is the night before, you will get an email with your Zoom links. So do not panic. I have not missed this once. I do not forget to email hundreds of you with Zoom link passwords. I think it's, really kind of funny that some of the people are doing that. Just take a deep breath. So everything for the on-campus program will be coming to you in a confirmation email midweek this week, but your Zoom links for your virtual sessions are going to come likely the afternoon before your next day, right, with your session. And that's just to minimize any potential issues of inappropriateness or things of that nature that we have going on. All right, this worked for transfer orientation. None of my transfer students had a problem, so we're going to be good to go there. If you have any questions about orientation, just shoot me an email, studenttransitions@tcnj.edu. The other thing is that if you can't make it, whether you weren't comfortable coming just because in-person experience is maybe not so much yet, or you're on vacation or whatever, don't panic. Don't panic. This is a very low-key kind of day. Not coming to we always have a group of students who can't make it even in a normal year. You not coming to orientation is not going to be a major deterrent to your overall success at the College of New Jersey. It's a really nice touch point. I'd be more than happy to connect with any of you if you have questions that maybe get answered there that you still have outstanding afterwards, but this is not the end all be all program of that, right? If I have a student who comes to me and they're like, oh, like how much of Welcome Week do I have to go to? Then I have a very different conversation with them, right? Because Welcome Week is just it is a truly once in a lifetime opportunity for our students. So more on that a little bit later in one of the next caffeine chats. So we have a little bit left to go, but we have made a ton of progress so far. Thanks to Frank and his team, and just really all of the academic side of the house for all that they did. So more things to kind of get. Oh, one more thing before we move on to the fall. Changing of the schedule. So I already had a parent ask, when can their student change their schedule? So after orientation, technically, is when they can start changing their schedule. And I know that Frank mentioned this. Oh, Lord, please be careful. Okay. You have no idea how many people will call, students will call, because they think that there's a seat in a class, and they drop a class that they need for their major. And then they try to go get that seat, and that seat is not there. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful schedule that we have spent weeks putting together crumbles and goes to the ground. All right. Be very, very careful if your student wants to change the schedule. We're not saying not to do it. They are adults. They can figure it out, but there is a lot that has gone into the process up until this point, and I would not want them to be in a situation where they wasted and threw all of that away and then ended up with a worse schedule in terms of time or classes or whatever, because they weren't figuring out the process and thought there were seats when there were not, and then, got into a big issue. Especially true for my athletes. We already have we have already beautifully put together yours based on practice schedules. So it's a little bit crazy. So just be careful is all I'm saying about that. Don't not do, but just, keep that in mind. Okay. I've talked about too long. Let's talk about FERPA. I love FERPA. This came up in my, I'm taking ethics. This is one of my last 2 classes in my MBA program is ethics. And this came up, privacy was the big topic on Saturday's class. So why don't we give them a quick little overview of FERPA, even for those who have, students that are already in college and have had some experience with this, but let's talk a little bit about what that means and authorized users and the opportunity to set that up at PCNJ.
Okay, great. All right, the FERPA is Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, exactly what it says. It's basically came out of the 70s. It was known years ago as the Buckley Amendment. So I guess it was my generation that's put this into place. It's basically what it says is that the student's academic record it belongs to them. They have ownership of that record. During your elementary school and high school years, as the custodian or guardian of your child, you actually had the right to inspect and review the student's records. Once the student attends institution of higher education, that right solely goes to them. So here's an interesting fact. Well, that's authorized. I'll get in the authorized user, but the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. As far as us, we have a role in records and even the institution to balance customer service with privacy, and we will always err on the side of privacy. That we're going to give the student the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to keep those records private. That does not mean, mom or dad, that you can't talk to somebody at the college. As I said, you are their coach, and as a coach, you also sometimes have to be an advocate. And sometimes institutions will lean on the FERPA. Well, we're not going to talk to you because of FERPA. You can always contact somebody and talk about academic policy. And records tends to be the hub as far as we interpret college policy and we implement college policy as far as the academics are concerned. So you can always contact our office and we can talk about policy. We probably won't go into Johnny has an A in biology and tell you that, because that would be under FERPA. We're not allowed to do that. So if you have the need to know what your students' grades are and have access to those grades, that's a kitchen table discussion you need to have with them. And try not to put us in the middle of that. But that's really an important thing. And we actually set it up where through what we call authorized user, where the student can give you a password and you can actually access all their academic records through our web services, which is called PAWS. We call it PAWS. It's personal academic web services, but it's basically everywhere you can look to get your look at a student, so you can see their grades and the like, and everything the student can see, they can give you access to. That's different than when I went to school. Like, now, granted, this was back in the 70s, right? And my mother just would rip open the envelope, and then I'd hear the Francis, but we don't mail home grades. All the grades are posted on the web services. So unfortunately, Mom, you don't have that option to be able to do that. So unless your son or daughter gives you access to do that, you're not going to be able to do that without their password or PIN protected. And that's basically where academic or the authorized user comes into play. I'm sorry. And the student can sign you up, and they can sign you up and give you a PIN and a password. And here's an interesting fact. Lindsay always loves this fact. 99.9% of the students are going to give you access to pay the bill. It's not the same when it comes to looking at their academic record. So if you have that need, you need to have a serious conversation with your son or daughter as far as that goes. I think next week we give a plug to Mr. Safara. He'll be next week talking about the bills and the billing and so forth. And and probably give you some idea about the academic or about authorized user and using that. But if you have that need, I would get that from them. And to the students out there, this is a conversation. It's your right. You have a right to do what you need to do. But if you choose to give mom or dad access, you can also take that access away. That also means that they may not want to pay your tuition bill, but that's a conversation you guys need to have at as I said, the kitchen table. And that's about all I'm going to say on that matter for now. So
okay, so 99% will let them pay the bill, but what's the percentage? And I love doing this in person when you make my students, my orientation leaders, raise up hands. I remember the 1 year, but what's the percentage that let them see the grades?
It's about less than 10%.
There you go.
So
this is the one part where I wish that we saw the parent reactions to this, because I'm sure behind their computers, some of them were like, oh my God. So yeah, you got to have that conversation, right? Parent and student. You can do it over. I always encourage some type of like Taco Tuesday. We're doing tacos tomorrow night, but yeah, I think that was my joke at the time a couple of years ago. Some type of dinner situation where you can just sit down and go, all right, let's flush it out. So FERPA, more to come on that. I did post in the chat the link to the authorized users, but as Frank mentioned, in 2 weeks, my next guest speaker is Scott Safera, and we'll talk a little bit about authorized users, a little bit more detail with him when he talks about bills and other things like that. Okay, next. So we get them here. They come through Welcome Week. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm a TCNJ student. We're on campus. We're in person. This is weird, but we're starting. Okay. So they will have their advisors assigned to them. Quick thing about the advisors I didn't mention before either. So your student will have a hold placed on their account that they cannot register for spring classes until they meet with their advisor. So a little bit of a tricky, backdoor situation we have going on here. But to answer the question about those that had, the minors and I want to go pre-med, so when do I start recs for that, and et cetera, your student will have to meet with their advisor to talk about the spring. They will take full ownership of this process. We got them to the front door of their, first semester here. They are in complete control of their destiny from here on out with the classes they want to take and the times they want to take them and all that kind of stuff. But they do need to meet with their advisor before they do that for the spring. And that is where all these conversations will take place. Don't have your student email the advisor on September 2nd and ask for this meeting. Our faculty advisors are teaching classes. Your student needs to take a deep breath and take some classes and go to class and get the kind of the first exams under your belt, which is a good segue to talk about mid-year progress reports as we wrap up here. But your student will meet with them. These advising appointments typically take place in October. All right. And that's because our students, all of them, register for the spring the first 2 weeks of November, which may have you thinking, oh, that's really helpful to know. Is there a calendar somewhere where all of those dates are really helpful in one convenient spot? And my answer would be yes. And guess whose area manages it? Wait, am I pointing the right way to you? I think it's the other way. Frank, let's talk about the academic calendar.
Okay. This is mom and dad, this is one of these coaching points. It'd be good for you to understand the academic calendar. The academic calendar is basically a listing of very important dates. And it's a transactional type of thing. When's the last day for a student to withdraw from a class? When is the midterm progress grades going to be sent out? When is registration going to happen? When are final exams? All that stuff is in the academic calendar, and that's posted. Basically, we have 5 years out there in advance that you can look at. I'm only interested just in looking this fall. The academic calendar for this fall is an important thing. So that's on our website, and we manage that. And the key things as far as the coaching, as far as the academic calendar, Lindsay already mentioned, we do a really fantastic job, I think, with what we call our midterm progress reports. And this is the faculty basically will give a student an assessment, and this happens normally in the month of October. And right around we have a fall break, which is on the academic calendar when that is. But the midterm progress report is where the faculty will tell a student that it's a red light, green light, yellow light scenario. Most of the students are going to get green lights. It means they're doing well. Everything's good. You're doing well in class and you're meeting expectations. And that's a positive thing. The next thing could be where a student would get a yellow light. And the yellow light means caution. And like Lindsay said, it's not it shouldn't be viewed as a negative thing. It's actually a good thing. It's where the faculty can engage you as far as telling you what you need to improve upon, what things that you can do better, how do you better manage the class and so forth. So the yellow light is actually a cautionary light. Is not a bad thing. It's a positive thing in the sense that it's saying, hey, come on in, let's talk and so forth. And then the last one is the red light, and it's a small percentage of people get red lights, but it does happen. And that's really where there needs to be some serious intervention. And that's where areas, I think Yvonne was here last week as far as the Center for Academic Success and so forth. And that's where really you need to get engaged with those types of things, whether it's tutoring, more intrusive advising and so forth. So these are the things that happen. So from a coaching standpoint, mom and dad, October is a great time to send a care package to your son or daughter, and check in with them, because a lot of things are going to happen there. One, they're going to get their academic requirement report or their midterm progress report in the middle of October. Secondly, they start preparing for the next semester. As Lindsay said, this is when advising meetings start happening for the next semester. And we register students every year. It's the first 2 weeks of November. We will register students for the spring, and the first 2 weeks of April we will register students for the fall. So that month prior to that is a great time to do that care package and do a check-in with your son or daughter. So
love that.
That's about it.
All right, I think we covered everything. Was there anything related to R&R stuff that we missed that we want to share?
We're available. If you need help, we're like Lindsay said, we're kind of the jack of all trades. We may not know the answer, but we'll know where to direct you. During orientation, my office will be open. So if you're here and you stop in, that's great. I do have a limited staff, just so you know, during the summer and with COVID and some of the restrictions, we're gearing up. We'll start back actually full-time in August, but I will have a limited staff here during orientation. So if you need to stop in and say hello, that's fine. We'll help you out with any questions or issues that you have. That's basically it.
And then sooner, before they know it, they're going to get that sneaky email. I think it was Lisa Watson Cotton who sent me mine that was like, oh, it's time to register for graduation. And I was like,
yes.
Wait, oh my gosh, that's happening already. So it's going to come out before you know it. All right. Well, Frank, thank you so much. I do have a couple minutes left. So if you don't mind sticking around in case there's other questions, I am going to go through a couple of other upcoming things for the group to be aware of, because I know that, orientation is kind of the big priority here. So lots of questions about billing. Yes. Ways to pay, when they're coming out, 529s, which is totally a mystery to me. The jack of all trades who runs the Office of Student Accounts, his name is Scott Safara, will be my next special guest. He will be up in 2 weeks. Now, programming announcement, I will email everybody this, but we're going to move the date a day. So it was supposed to be Sunday, July 25th. We're going to move it to Monday, July 26th, in large part because I booked a trip and forgot. And then I'm going to get all my time dates and things all confused. And, I don't even know. It was Austin, Texas, a week, an hour, 2 hours behind. It was going to be a mess. So thank you for your flexibility, but we're going to do it Monday night, the 26th. And that's the week the bills come out. So it will be perfect timing. We're going to cover the ways to pay. We're going to cover the billing calendar, the tuition and fees. I know. So again, a couple quick things if you need information before then, but the Board of Trustees met last week and finalized whatever tuition increases or non-increases took place. That I haven't even taken a look at that yet. But you can, so that information, and at least last year, should be on the website to give you a general idea of where we are for tuition and stuff. But he's the guy who's going to come in and answer all your questions. So we're going to have him on in 2 weeks. That will be super helpful leading up to the bills. The bills go out the last week in July, but they are not due until the last week in August. So you have some time there to get all of your ducks in a row pertaining to grants, loans, all that kind of good stuff. So Scott will be available to answer questions. Also, if you had questions about loans, declaring private scholarships, grants, anything along the financial aid lines, they're going to have like an open office hours during orientation, the 4 days that we're on campus, in the afternoon for you to be able to drop in and answer questions or get your specific questions answered. And again, we don't do a big session with them because at this point in the process, so many of you have like very specific questions pertaining to your financial aid package and your current situation. So they will be open and available there with staff to answer questions if you're on campus for orientation. And then if not, you can always email them. Their email address again is OSFA, Office of Student Financial Assistance at tcnj.edu. So more to come with bills and all sorts of good things of that nature. The other thing that we got an email about in the submitted a question or two was student health insurance waivers and how that process works. So contrary to popular belief, you would think that the waiver program is through health services, and it's not. It's through Scott's area in student accounts. So we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks as well. The waiver that is available, you do have to opt out. So if your student is staying on your health insurance, a parent health insurance, there's a simple form to fill out and submit, and you won't get charged, but otherwise they'll get enrolled into the plan that the college has, and Scott will share a lot more information then with you about that. So that kind of covers some of those bigger picture questions that we had there. I did talk about orientation already. Oh, and then the last thing that I had on my schedule, or on my list, my short list anyway. So your student, if you are living on campus in the fall for the academic year, I should say, your student, to their TCNJ email address about 2 weeks ago, should have gotten an email from the housing department for information on signing up for drop and go move-in. So we're doing a drop and go move-in process this year for our students. So starting on Saturday, August 21st through Wednesday, August 25th, right? So those 5 days, there are certain slots available for each residence hall throughout the course of the day. They're like a 3-hour window. Your student is going to sign up for a spot and come to campus and move all of their stuff in. And then they're going to leave campus, go back home, spend a final few days with you, and then come back on, well, for my new students, it'll be for all of you here. It will be Thursday, the 26th for welcome week. I think it's anytime after 2:00 p.m. Much more to come on welcome week to come later. Signups for the drop and go move-in slots start this week. So this is just a friendly reminder that if your student has not been checking their TCNJ email address, please, every day or two, right? I have no idea. You have no idea what they're missing. I already had one student who reached out 2 weeks ago who just didn't set it up at all. Do not be the student, but definitely make sure that you check that, because I don't want you to miss your window and your opportunity to do the drop and go move in. And so then you can start preparing for all those other things that come down the pike with moving onto campus and getting prepared for the start of this semester. Okay. Also, housing assignments obviously did go out for the first year students. The transfer students, they're on a rolling basis. So some of you may have heard already, but if you are still waiting, I know that there's a handful of transfer students that we're still figuring out placements for. So just sit tight, but you can send any questions pertaining to housing assignments, roommates, any of that kind of stuff to housing at tcnj.edu. So I think that was my last big thing. And then again, so Scott's coming in 2 weeks. We're going to move it from Sunday to Monday. And then we have 2 more in August. Beginning of August, we're going to have Shannon and Avani, who run our Office of Career and Leadership Development here, just to talk about some really important kind of pieces to the tangible field experiences and hands-on opportunities that we want your student to have to complement that experience learning inside the classroom. And then I think he's confirmed, but I have another special guest right before welcome week starts, and I'll go back and make sure he's a definite yes before I announce him. So I think that 902, this is like the most on point that I have been in these chats so far. But I'll stick around for an extra minute or two behind the scenes and answering in the chat. I will do one more plug. Again, student transitions at tcnj.edu is the general inbox. Please email me there. Some of you have found me personally. That's totally fine. Those emails get lost. In full transparency, if you want the fastest response, I have 4 people in that inbox answering questions throughout the week. So to get you the quick answer, email studenttransitions@tcnj.edu, and one of us will get back to you. But otherwise, Frank, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It is always so fun to see you and catch up. And I just know that this information, the comments are already coming in. People are just so incredibly grateful for the information that you shared tonight. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate it. And
All
go
right,
Lions.
everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.